Welcome to Contemporary Black Voices, taking on the most pressing issues affecting Black America. Today, we will be addressing gentrification, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and its lingering effects on the Black community. Now, before I continue, there is some housekeeping needed to be done. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell on the right-hand side of the screen to receive notifications of our videos being uploaded, as well as others from Black Video Network. In 2017, Georgetown's Journal on Poverty and Law described gentrification as occurring when communities experience an influx of capital, goods, and services in locales where those resources were previously non-existent or denied. Usually, gentrification occurs when more affluent people move to or become interested in historically less affluent neighborhoods. Some argue gentrification is beneficial since the gentrification process creates more development, rapid economic investment, and support of projects related to consumption and entertainment. However, there is the argument that the process leads to negative impacts such as forced displacement, a fostering of discriminatory behavior by people in power, and a focus on spaces that exclude low-income individuals and people of color. So, we have much to discuss today and encourage you to post your own comments in this week's videos. Gentrification, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as its lingering effects on the Black community. Today we have a special guest. We have Charles Ray, who is a real estate developer here in San Antonio, Texas. Welcome, Charles. How are you doing?
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. Real estate broker.
You're a real estate broker. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Hey. So you and I had talked, and one of the questions I want to ask you is, what do you see as the benefits of gentrification?
Okay, my viewpoint, that was the good, bad, and ugly, as you mentioned. The good is it brings a better quality of homes, buildings, and surroundings in a neighborhood. The bad and the ugly kind of go together. And the reason we see the bad and the ugly is, let me go back just a little bit. If I go back to 2013, I was looking over my records. I could still sell properties on the east side of San Antonio in the Jefferson Heights subdivision, which a lot of people don't know the name, from New Braunfels Avenue to the Coliseum, east and west, from Burleson Street north, and from Commerce Street south. It's called the Jefferson Heights subdivision. Most of these houses were built on lots like 50 wide and 125 deep. A lot of the older people are being displaced. Some of them are dying off. The children don't want the property, so somebody throw this cash money at them, and hey, they see that cash money, they take it and run. So what is the problem? The problem is they don't know what to do with the money once they get it. The elderly who can't afford to stay, they have a problem because they're on fixed income, and their fixed income alone is not enough to keep up with the property taxes and so forth. So gentrification, let's go back in time in the 70s and 80s, was really called urban renewal. Then it came to Negro replacement. Today it's called regentrification. Okay, now if we take all that and put it together, how's the good, bad, and the ugly fit in? The good, again, is there's better development in the neighborhood. But the bad is, again, what are you going to do with this money once you get it and not be able to move it to make more money? Okay, the percentage of blacks in the San Antonio, I think, is about 7 to 8%. The United States, probably 13%. We need leadership. City council people need to present something in the communities to talk to the people in these communities. Ask them what they want, what the problem is, take these back to the city government, which is the city council and the mayor's office. A lot of things can change if you have representation that can take your problem, your situations back to the city council. Now, one problem that's an adverse condition to the people is a city council person is only standing there 2 years. This is not enough time to implement your changes. And if that person only stays in there 2 years, you got another person coming to replace them. They start a process all over with other things. They haven't got to know the people or the situation. Another 2 years, it could change again. This is a problem. I think if the community leaders go into the churches and community and hold meetings, find out what the problems are, let the people speak, take these back to the city government, change things, probably give some incentive on taxes to help elderly people, a lot of this could probably change. Now, the size of these lots I was talking about, most of them was 50 feet wide by 125 deep. But that's not the way they were platted. And most of the time, a house was sitting right in the center. They was platted as 25 wide by 125 deep. So that's why you now see 2, 3, and 4 houses sitting on one lot on the east side and other parts of town because somebody found an advantage and they going straight up and they can get more property. They can make more money. You got Airbnb closer to the downtown areas coming in, and that's a lot of where a lot of these are making money off of. But now they even stretch it into the regular residential areas, which is further away from downtown. The problem here also is once they raise these property taxes, that's hurting the elderly and those who have been there for a long time, and displacement takes place twofold. Not only do they pay them money to get out, but they also can't afford their taxes, and they got a good opportunity of losing the property. So I hope that answers a lot of your questions. But I will say this. I think that economically, we need to become more financially educated. I mean, gentrification is not illegal, so you got to understand that. But if they coming into an area that's going to hurt people, that's hurting you so bad that you don't know what you're going to do with your money when you move it. So why take the money and move? But that's not what's happening. They are taking the money, and then they find out in a year or two they don't have any money left and don't have anywhere to stay. So I'm saying that I'm looking at city council leaders taking meetings in churches and the community, taking this back and presenting it, getting a vote on it to help the elderly, not allowing certain things to happen in certain areas. And a lot of that can also be if they could do tax incentives for the elders, say 80 or over, and keep their taxes down, that would help somewhat also. And I also think that we need to become more financially educated as Black people. And I think talking about it before, I think I talked with Chris Dawkins before, we need to get better educated. I think it should be a high school requirement to become more financially educated before you get out of high school. Because you see a lot of things that happen in the neighborhoods, predominantly Black neighborhoods. They want so much wealth, but don't have the money to pay for it. This is another problem we have. These people moving into these areas doing gentrification, they borrowing money and come in here and they're going to make more money either with the property, reselling it, flipping it, or using Airbnb. But the Blacks don't do that. The Hispanics don't do that. These are the type of people who are being affected the most. We need good community leadership. The stuff I'm talking now need to be expressed to the neighborhoods, to the churches, to the community, to the city council person. Get it in and discuss it, but they need to stick with it. I would like to point out a book that I think is very important. Very few people have heard about it. Robert Kiyosaki had 2 good books. The books are Unfair Advantage. Unfair advantage is you having an advantage against the system if you learn how to work your money. The other one is increase your financial IQ. I think once we as Black people and also the Hispanics who's in these areas become more financially educated, it doesn't really matter what's happening in regentrification. Otherwise, we're going to become so aware of how money works that we're going to be able to move it and make more money.
I do have another question for you. I'm seeing these very, very expensive townhomes being built within older communities. Do these residents really do anything beyond living in those communities? do they take their money and feed it back into the community?
Oh, could you repeat that, please, ma'am?
Okay, so are the residents who are gentrifying neighborhoods, what contributions are they making financially into the community at large? Or are they taking their money and moving
Probably,
it to other communities?
probably a little, if any. They gonna find other properties to regentrify and sell it to somebody else or flip it, and they gonna keep moving into other neighborhoods, but bringing money back into the community. No, I don't see it.
Let me ask you a question. We know at one point white folks ran from the cities into the suburbs. The big thing was the suburbs. Now they're running back through gentrification. Why is that? Why did they decide to come back?
Well, this is happening throughout the United States right now. If you keep up with the news, a lot of people are reclaiming the downtown areas as being
Right.
a central location of cities. They've moved out so far. And I think this is the reason why they are coming back. As we see going down Broadway Street, you see so many townhouses and apartment complexes down the Broadway Street from downtown, stretching further out and all around that downtown area. Why are they coming back? And then you got to look at the demographics. You got to look at the younger generation. A lot of this is pertaining to the younger generations, probably in the late 20s, 30s, and 40s, and not necessarily the elderly. But I would say most of that young generation was up and coming, got more educated, and got good employment.
Okay.
I
Anybody?
do know they're coming back. In Washington, D.C., the area was surrounded by us. And so you're a white congressman from Nebraska. How can your people get in to see him without going through that neighborhood? And that's one of the big reasons they decided to, and they have really gentrified DC. The streets were occupied by us, and they've all pushed them out into Prince George's County. And I guess my question would be, how long can they do that? Where are we going to go if they keep pushing us out of the cities?
Well, I'm gonna go back to that leadership. You're gonna need a leader to help you to make some changes, but it's not gonna happen, just with a thought process. And I'm gonna say, yeah, we do need some good leadership to help support that.
Yeah, I also noticed, shared in your opening, you said they're putting resources and money back into these areas when they didn't do it when it was occupied by us. So,
Well, I consider the landmark of gentrification as being Starbucks. When you start seeing Starbucks show up
Yeah.
in neighborhoods that did not have Starbucks, then rest assured something's getting ready to happen.
Okay, we got a Starbucks right down the corner at the fork in the road at
Right.
Houston Street. And I think that's the only one that's pretty close to the east side, but you haven't seen a lot of development come around that.
It's
That would,
pending.
yeah, it wouldn't benefit the black community. I guess it's coming, but I don't see any now. Again, that leadership is highly important. Like what we're discussing here today, this stuff needs to constantly be talked about. I mean, we don't have enough numbers, 7% of blacks, 8% at the most in San Antonio. It's hard to say that these people coming here doing this regentrification is coming from other areas, other states, and coming here doing that because the property value was so low. So they're benefiting from that. But we do see a Starbucks, but we don't see great changes. We need the leadership. And I think Chris Dawkins should be someone to run for District 2.
Chris, you want to give a political
what
speech?
do you have to say?
That's all over for me. Don't want any part of it. One of the things that has to happen to me or has to happen for San Antonio as we begin to look local is you've touched on a couple of things. One is that you're not going to be able to do good legislation with 2 years. Yes, we can get rid of a politician within 2 years, but it does not give you any time to be able to have
Exactly.
the second thing that I'm talking about, which is continuity. The problem that we've had in our neighborhoods is not being able to have continuity. It's like that old adage for black folks. We never want to run the marathon. We always want to run the fast race. And we've got to be able to look at running the marathon. And the marathon means being able to have continuity as we go from one council person to the next council person.
Well, what do you suggest that the offices should be for 4 years?
I definitely think the offices need to be for 4 years.
At least.
You need to step up and understand that at the seventh largest city in America, that you're going to pay these people a consummate rate. There's no reason why you can go up to Austin, that's a fraction of the size that we are, and you're paying your council people a lot more. What is it that we don't deserve to have those people? And if we can't afford that, which I do understand, we don't have as many corporations to be able to maybe to support everything. But if that's the case, then let's look at asking some of the corporations to put forth a candidate. Let us support that candidate with the understanding that person's only going to stay for so many years and it's going to be subsidized by the corporation.
So you're putting term limits in there. Is that what you're doing?
Indirectly.
It sounds like you're doing it directly. You can only run for so many years.
No, I'm saying if we don't have the mechanism to be able to get from point A to point B, meaning we're at 2 years now and we want to be able to have 4 years, and we can also maybe afford to pay the council people that we want to pay them. So if that's the case, the alternative from my standpoint is to say, let's let somebody like a Valero, somebody like a USAA say, we're going to take Fred Williams, who works for us. He's still going to get paid from Valero or USAA, but he's also going to get paid from the working at city council. And that way we get two people to actually
Wait, let me understand what you're saying. You're saying you want big corporations to support the people who are going to go into office.
I'm saying that is not the what you would desire. But if you have right now, okay, let's really break it down even further. The problem that we've had in San Antonio has been the population that we have. And the population that we have does not want to pay or have council people for a longer period of time. So if you really don't want to deal with it the way I talked about before, then you really need to deal with the population. But the population has basically said you're going to have a 2-year term and you're not going to pay these people that much money. And that's what we've lived with. But we're a bigger city now and we've got to be able to change.
So what is your alternative? I thought you said something about businesses supporting the
I did, but you didn't like that.
Well, I just have to point to Washington, D.C. That's the problem up there, is everyone is dependent on contributions. And what happens is, like, think of the National Rifle Association. Yeah, they have all that power because they give money to these candidates to get them reelected, and they're beholden to them. And you, under what you're saying, it seems to me, is you'd be doing the same thing. So that candidate Chris Dawkins would be more beholden to Valero than to the people in his community.
Look, we've only got about a minute left in this segment. I'm going to turn it back over to Sharon, and maybe we might be able to talk more about this as we come back.
All righty. You heard it from Chris. We'll come back and we're going to continue this discussion about politics and gentrification.